Witches, happy full moon. It's a Scorpio full moon tonight, and I cleaned the altar today, so everything is feeling fresh, and I hit 1,000 subscribers. So I thought I would jump on here real quick and give you a little bit of a gift, and that gift is the instructions on how to do an indoor maypole. This was Mother Drum, the early days of Mother Drum. 2001 was the first Mother Drum. And I'm going to show you some photos from the first maypole we did, which was 2003. So let me share my screen with you. There we go. This is, let me zoom in for you. This is a photo of the setup where it's naked and you can see underneath it. What you're going to need is a table like this. This is just a porch table with a hole in the middle for an umbrella. And you will need a bucket, and you will need some chunks of wood to stick in that bucket. And you will need a pole that's, I would say, 7 feet tall. I'd go for maybe 6. That is no wider than like 2 inches in diameter, I would say, but it's got to be a sturdy pole and it's got to be straight. And then you need this thing right here. This is from a carpet store. So if you go to a carpet store and you ask them for one of the cores for their carpet, this is what you'll get. And let me zoom in here. Here's a closer up picture of it. I hope you can see that well. But this is a very thick, heavy cardboard core. You know, it's a cylinder. It's hollow. The shelter that we met in had, I would say, 10-foot ceilings. It was at least 9. And I guessed at all of this. I want you to know. Hold on. There. Now you got me again. I did not try this before we went to the shelter that day. I just worked it out in my head and said a whole bunch of prayers. So you go to the carpet place and you get this core, this cardboard thing. And what's fun, I had a little, oh God, what were we driving? We didn't have the Cavalier yet, I don't think. At any rate, we had a really little car. And what I would have to do is put down the front seat, or, lay it back and lay back half of the back seat and have the end of this thing stuck into the trunk, and then it was sticking out the window. I remember driving home and I felt like I was jousting. It's like, yeah, here I come. But these are long. I think they're like 12 feet long or something. And we had to cut it down. So it was cut down to, I want to say 6 feet. That's a guess. And then I painted it purple for this very first one. At the top, when you're looking at the hole at the top, what I did was drill holes like this. So 2 facing each other one way, and then 2 facing each other 90 degrees from that. I got a little grapevine wreath for the top, and I took wire and put it through those holes and wired it onto the wreath. So that's what held the wreath at the top. And then, as you can see, the ribbons are all tied on. So this wasn't something that I could just have waiting for everybody to come and bring their own ribbons. Although one year I think we did. I can't remember how many we did of this, you guys. I honestly can't. But I think one year people brought their own ribbons and helped set up and do the altar and everything. But my memory is so shaky. This was 18 years ago, you guys. So what you got to do then, and this is not a one-person job. You have the table. You have the thin pole, the 2-inch pole that comes down through the table and into the bucket. And then I took newspapers, and I had a big piece of rebar that I used to poke the fire with. and I took the newspapers and just crunched them up and jammed them down in there around that pole, because the cardboard core is, maybe 6 inches across, 5 inches across. And then you've got this 2-inch pole in the middle. So something's got to hold it together. So I just jammed newspaper down in there until it was nice and tight and straight. And then you stand the thing up, and you've got to, put the bucket on the bottom and stand it up like this. And then I took these chunks of wood and chalked them down into the bucket. So I just wedged them in there really hard, and that serves to stabilize the pole, to hold it still, but it also adds a whole bunch of weight to the bottom of it. I mean, you could use rocks if you wanted to, but when you've got 4, big pieces of wood stuck in there, it was pretty well wedged in there. And of course, before you do that, you have to put all the ribbons on, and I used flowers at the top. So let's go on and take a look. There's you can see the flowers at the top. I don't think you can see the wires here, but the wires go through on either side and anchor that wreath. And you want to use a good sturdy wire, and you really want to wire it up on the wreath, because people are going to be dancing and pulling on it. So you want to make sure it's solid, And then I tied the ribbons all the way around, and we had, I think I had people let me know, ahead of time what element they wanted to dance, or maybe on this first one I didn't. I don't really remember. And interestingly, with Mother Drum, I never knew how many people were showing up. I did a couple where it was like a register in advance thing, but it was an open circle. And I never knew any given Mother Drum. I would be there working my ass off and getting it all set up with my sister-in-law, Denise. And I never knew if anybody was going to come. And this was one of those nights where I chose a certain number of ribbons, and that was the number of people that showed up. I think there might have been one more person, and they didn't want to dance. So it was like, perfect and magical. Here is an after picture, and I'll show you what I did on this first one. I took fabric and just wrapped it around the pole on the table, and then this was a piece of sari fabric, and I pinned that around the outside, and it went down to the floor. And let me hold up. So you can see it was just wrapped around like this and pinned. And then the next one I did, I'll show you that in just a minute, but you can see the altar, and you can see some people in the background there. But look at this, you guys. This was, for the first one that we did, it was perfection. The weaving was absolute perfection. I'll show you some close-ups. I mean, you can see at the top as it starts to weave, but when you get down towards the bottom here, it's just an incredible looking thing. Here's a picture of the altar. I had lilacs around it. I used to take, you can see I've got these votive candle empty glass things that I used for flowers, and you can see I've got them wired around the pole. So they're hugging the pole. There's black tulips, and ooh, look at the flowers. And I took a piece of wire and wrapped it around and anchored it so nothing was going anywhere, because, it was going to be taking stress. And my great big wand and my pentagram, woven pentagram. Here's another side of the altar. That's the fireside with my little sword. You can tell this was taken with a really cheesy camera. Here you can see how the sari fabric touches the floor. And the finished pole. Let's see here. And there's the water side. And even with, you see how it had a little bit of a tilt to it by the time we were done, looking at it from the one side. But while we were dancing, everybody was so mindful. We didn't have any mishaps. Now, a couple of years later, we almost had to get pulled over. Somebody got overexcited and was pulling, and it was like, wait! So we had to kind of stop and fix everything. But look at this. Look at that, you guys. Look at the weaving. And this is the advantage of supplying the ribbon for people, because you can pick the same size ribbon. and get something that's incredible and uniform like this. So we had the 5 elemental colors. We had yellow and red and blue and green, and then we had silver and gold for the sun and the moon. And then we had black. I think we had black too. I think. Yeah, we had black. So you can see, this was at the bottom as people started to tie off and wrap around. It got a little bit crunched there, but just look at that. Absolutely beautiful. Now let me go to, this was one in 2005. And I got a little fancy and did a kind of a gradient up the pole, and I put blue flowers and some little battery operated lights at the top, and that made it extra special. Oh, is that all I have of that? I guess so. All right. But you can see when I did this one, see the white cloth here? I actually bought cloth and, figured it all out and sewed it into a great big square and left a bit of the seam in the middle open so the fabric could go over, the center pole and down. And that made it a lot easier. This top piece was wrapped around, but the white actually goes all the way over the table, and that made it a lot easier. And you see all the candles here? I mean, we lived on the edge. Mother Drum lived on the edge, you guys. It wasn't, I used to say that it just really wasn't one of my altars unless it was fraught with the potential for disaster. And even though this one almost bit the dust, I think this was the one that almost got pulled over. It didn't. It didn't. We saved it. And then one year I did, although I don't unfortunately have photographs of it anywhere, makes me sad. But we did a lunar maypole one year because Beltane, it was like a full moon there. And it's like, we're doing a lunar maypole. And the pole was painted deep, deep, deep midnight blue and then splattered with silver. And the ribbons were black, red, and white. And that was a very magical one. Very, very magical one. I don't have a lot of memory of that. And I mean, that's because we just went into the magic zone, totally went into the magic zone. And getting things set up, as you saw in the one picture, I, pulled the ribbons out and actually taped them to chairs so people came in and saw this wonderful thing set up. It was kind of a little bit of a miracle that first one went together so beautifully. And there is such a thing as beginner's luck. Like I said, not having tried it to see if it was going to work, I just kind of engineered it in my head. And then we got there and it was like, okay, we got to do this and this. And I remember once like putting it up and going, oh shit, we got to put the ribbons on, and taking it back down to put the ribbons on and then putting it back up. And, when we were doing it with the white cloth, it's like, okay, put the table, sort of tilt the table on its side, and then the cloth has to go over it, and then the skinny pole goes through, and then the big pole goes on, and then the newspaper gets stuffed in, and then you put the bucket on the skinny pole, stand it up, put the wood in, make sure it's stable, and, then you set the altar. So it was something else, but it worked. I mean, we did it 3 times and it worked, and I'd like to know what you think of it. I'd like to know if you've ever done an indoor maypole yourself and how you pulled it off. I'd like to know if you can think of ways that it might be better and more easily done. I mean, if I were in a position of doing this over and over and over again, I think I would figure something out that would be a little bit more permanent, like with the pole within the pole, instead of stuffing newspapers in, maybe having something at the core that anchors that inner pole. I don't know. I mean, I doubt that I will ever do one again, but I want you guys to do it. I want you to try one. And I remember, thinking I've got to have a table with a hole in the middle, and just asking around, and one of the regular mom drummers, Julie, had one and brought it, and I got to borrow that, and that it went off. So and to me, beginner's luck is about faith, It's about throwing it out there. I'm going to do this. And I mean, think about this, you guys, that I didn't know until we got it together and everybody showed up and we did it, whether it was going to work. So I was a brave person back then. I was a very brave person back then. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you have an incredible full moon celebration tonight and an amazing Beltane. I will certainly be talking to you before Beltane. I'll be talking to you on Wednesday for a live stream. Until then, enjoy. Let me know what you think down below. Thanks for your subscribership. And there's also going to be a Zoom party for my 1,000 subscribers. So I will let you know when that's going to be. All right, you guys. Happy full moon. Blessed be. This is the Zen Witch.